Hundreds, maybe thousands. Mothers, daughters, wives, sisters, friends, taken from across the country, from every province and every territory. Some brutalized, some murdered, most never to be seen again. The number of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in Canada is staggering and growing. The issue has sparked international outrage and calls for action. While the issue has been going on for decades, only now is it getting mainstream attention. Here in Canada, politicians, media, law enforcement, and the families left behind are joining together to seek answers, to serve justice, and to make sure that no voice is silenced by the acts of violence. We need your help. At any time during this broadcast or afterward, if you have any information that might help solve these cases, visit our website. Someone out there has answers. Our goal is to find them. Each episode of Taken will honor the stories of Canada's missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, like the little 15-year-old whose body was found in August 2014 in Winnipeg, Manitoba, igniting the conversation. Her name was Tina Fontaine. Tina Fontaine was just 15 years old. She was reported missing on August 9, 2014, and then found in the Red River on August 17th in Winnipeg, Manitoba. She had been murdered.
I think, society, we'd be horrified if somebody if we found a litter of kittens or pups in the river in this condition. This is a child, so society should be horrified.
Tina Fontaine's murder sparked outrage and fear. She was a vulnerable child who was brutalized and dumped into the river with the intention that she would never be found. Circumstances beyond her control led her down a path that no child should have to endure. Before Tina's death, she lived with her great-aunt, Thelma Fable, in Saugeen First Nation. After her father's murder in 2011, Tina gradually reconnected with her estranged mother and siblings in Winnipeg. Thelma was hesitant to let Tina go visit, but didn't want to deny her that connection to family.
She was happy that she was going to see her sisters again, because that's all she ever talked about was her sisters. Never too much about her mother. It was always about her sisters. And that's what I just thought that, everything would be okay again and that she'd be safe.
After a successful first visit, Thelma allowed Tina to visit her family again in June 2014. It was the end of the school year, and all indications from the first visit were that Tina had been safe and would be again. Even then, Thelma took precautions.
I gave Tina $60 and a prepaid long-distance phone card, and I said, phone me if things don't work out. A week for Tina would be too long to be without Sarah. So I told her, if things don't, if you want to come home sooner, use the card and we'll pick you up. That was my last contact with her.
She gets to the city, she's totally out of her league. She does find her mom and she doesn't get along with her mom. Hey, how many 15-year-old kids don't get along with their mom? Lots, It happens, unfortunately. And she took off from there.
Tina would spend the next several weeks with a boyfriend on the streets of Winnipeg, living an increasingly perilous lifestyle. More than once she encountered law enforcement, paramedics, and the city child welfare system. There were numerous chances for authorities to intervene in the life of this troubled child.
August 9th, her name came up through the system. They ran her name through the system, and she was intoxicated. And she's 15 years old, and she looked to be about 12, if you've seen her. And what authority would let a child that's intoxicated go? Why didn't they hold on to her? And then for her to be found in the back alley, passed out, and then the paramedics take her to the hospital, and nothing is ever done. with the CFS. They took her from the hospital, and they just dropped her off back at the hotel, out the door. And that was the last time she was ever seen. And they all had that opportunity to hold on to her.
At age 15, Tina did not have the maturity or experience to live on her own.
No matter what people will say that she worked at or did when she was here, she's still just a kid, and she's got no experience of the city. Like, she could pretend she had, and she tried to portray that she had, but literally, she's a kid who's been exploited out there. Tina's final downhill spiral was just about 2 or 3 days. You know, from when she lost the safety net of the boyfriend and the family around her, at 2 or 3 days is all she survived.
After being reported missing on August 9th, Tina's body was recovered from the Red River on August 17th, 2014.
I received a phone call from the lead investigator, and he told me that they pulled her body from the Red River. And so the last time I ever seen Tina was June 30th, 2014.
The nation was horrified, but why now?
Why did it have to take her death to open up so many people's eyes, to show that there is a problem out there with Aboriginal women?
Missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls advocate Bernadette Smith explains her understanding of why.
When you're 15 years old and you're disposed of in a garbage bag and just thrown in a river, you know, like you're nothing, I think that those three things, you know, whether she was Aboriginal or not, really woke people up. People started to see themselves in that situation, that it could be their daughter, you know, that it could be someone that they know.
Tina's tragic death galvanized the nation. It brought to life the severity of violence against women and children that demanded action.
A national public inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in Canada.
Canada's Minister of Justice and Attorney General was there.
It was an announcement of our government's commitment to move forward with the inquiry. And that, to me, is an action that we're taking, but it is representative of a huge amount of effort and work that has been led by Indigenous women, Indigenous people generally, by families of murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls, and survivors that have been strongly advocating for a national inquiry.
Tina Fontaine's murder sparked outrage and fear. Could Tina's death have been the catalyst for a new awareness of how bold and widespread the violence had become? Was our collective consciousness awakened? Can Tina's tragic story inspire a nation to work together to make change?